Those warriors who dedicate themselves to Grandfather Nurgle and somehow are able to attract the attention of the Lord of Disease and Decay are some of the galaxy's toughest and most filthiest beings in existence. And to describe a worshipper of Nurgle as the filthiest, it truly means grotesque to the point of revulsion. Now, we all know that each Chaos God has their own vanguard of warriors that lead their demonic legions into battle. Most of the time, these champions are former Space Marine battle brothers whose superhuman bodies are manipulated by the ruinous powers to create godlike soldiers capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the greatest demons of the warp. The champions of Nurgle, however, take their potency to a whole new level, as their god turns them into the embodiment of disease and decay. Little more than moving sacks of rotting flesh and bacteria, these great warriors are immune to the damage that would normally kill a Space Marine. They proudly serve the Plague Lord Nurgle and ensure that every planet they invade feels the terror of inescapable plague and then the blessings and the embrace of Grandfather Nurgle. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Chaos Champions of Nurgle. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. What I try to do is create a video with a lore portion, a hobby portion, and then a community portion where I just talk to you guys with, or I answer the questions that you guys left off in the previous 40 Facts video, or just respond to whatever comments you guys have going on within the community, within the lore, or anything like that. And normally, because I like to post every single day, when I get sick, I just use that as an opportunity to talk about Grandfather Nurgle, because he is the Chaos God of Disease, so it's perfectly, because I can talk about the lore with my raspy, nasally, nasty voice, and then when I get sick, that gets even worse, so it just sounds really good when you're talking about disease and decay, and the person is basically just dying of disease and decay. But yeah, if you guys like these types of video, hit the like button, share with your friends, and you can support us on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's just $1 a month. Really do appreciate it. And with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Chaos Champion of Nurgle. Relatively few of those who receive Nurgle's glorious blessings distinguish themselves as much more than a tiny but welcome maggot, doing their part to eat away at the rotting corpse that is the decaying universe. Those who do manage to stand out from the smelly and disgusting lot of Nurgle worshippers will most always receive the most mutations. These 6 souls will exemplify the ruling principles of Nurgle's philosophy, and thus emulate his grand and corrupted form at a level that leaves no doubt as to which of the ruinous powers has claimed their souls. These are the Plague Father's mortal champions, and it is through their foul deeds that many of the greatest accomplishments of Nurgle's plan are achieved. Every hive planet struck with a pandemic-level pathogen that murders the vast majority of the population, or every agri-world polluted with crop-killing plagues is orchestrated by one of Nurgle's great champions. So often these champions take on an appearance not unlike that of their dark patron. This is not unusual for minions of the Plague Father. Great Unclean Ones, for example, the greatest of Nurgle's champions, are said to be small, though massive in their own right versions of Nurgle himself. And in turn, their excreted offspring, the Nurglings, look like miniature replicas of the Great Unclean Ones that gave them life. Likewise, mortal champions become bloated, stinking, leaking collections of rotten flesh, exposed entrails, necrotic sores, and all manner of foulness. They are surrounded by clouds of flies and followed by Nurglings that splash about in the slime trails that spread out behind them to mark their passing. Entire polluted ecosystems encompass the champions of Nurgle. Wherever they step foot, viruses and bacteria will flourish. Unlike the minions of the other Chaos Gods, champions of Nurgle do not hesitate to pursue enemies into the most dank, disgusting, and polluted places. There is no cesspool or sewer noxious enough to deter Nurgle's followers. Not even quarantine plague zones are off-limit to these grotesque monsters. This terrifying reality makes the champions of Nurgle some of the most resilient warriors of the entire galaxy. Marching into battle and conquering planets that most other Chaos factions would consider lost or unattainable. Once a champion of Nurgle has a scent for his foe, no amount of stink can throw him off. This determination that is part of Nurgle's lessons serves this champion well, as they do whatever needs to be done to serve their lord. Champions of Nurgle will swim through pools of flesh-melting acid, fly through clouds of lung-collapsing fumes, march over the rotting corpses of their fallen brethren, all to make sure that their Plague Lord's blessings can be shared. Lesser worshippers of Nurgle who follow these champions into the battlefield are unfazed by the grotesque conditions of these great warriors. As a matter of fact, other devoted followers draw inspiration from the morbid beauty of their rotting forms, the sickly sweet odor of their rancid flesh, and the corruptive acts they commit in the name of Grandfather Nurgle. The Plague Lord's champions all end up mimicking his appearance in some way or another. Curiously enough, some of these champions were drawn to the worship of Nurgle because they started out life bearing some passing resemblance to him. The simple fact that a child was born with some abnormality, like an exposed organ or even whooping cough, is enough to draw the kind attention of the Great Unclean One. However, Nurgle is more than form. He is also a philosophy. Most mortal champions and many lesser followers end up thinking like he does, though in a limited fashion due to the constraints of mortal minds. But it is the demonic champions that know their father's thoughts the best. These demon champions of Nurgle are the nearest to their god than any mortal, and more closely involved to his plans than any other demonic servant. But the beauty of the society that Nurgle cultivates is that there's little place for jealousy or scheming in the gardens of Nurgle or any of his domains. And his champions know this. Though they wish for nothing more than to be one with the Plague Father, they also know that they will never be as close to him as the Great Unclean Ones, the greater demons of Nurgle. And as they do with so much else as a result of Nurgle's teachings, they accept their lot. This relationship to their god differs from that of the other champions. The other ruinous powers take particular pleasure in deceiving mortals, damning them by tricking them with lies and promises they will never have to keep. They see these demonic followers, even the champions, as never having a choice, but to do as they are commanded. They view these champions more as slaves to darkness than co-conspirators with it. In their eyes, this makes mortal servants somehow more interesting than the demonic. However, Nurgle knows most of his mortal followers turn to him as a last act of desperation, but his demonic minions, most especially the Great Unclean Ones and the champions, have a genuine affection for Grandfather Nurgle and serve him out of love. And Nurgle delights in reciprocating, reminding him as it does of some kind of cycle, and therefore takes great interest and pride in the efforts of demonic champions. The desires of Nurgle and his champions are one. Each knows that the great corruption is a higher purpose that must be served, and they do so with great resolve and satisfaction. And that's the lore to the Chaos Champion of Nurgle. I feel so close to this being. I could be him if only Nurgle would bless me with more illness. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to get more sick. Let's move on to the hobby portion of this video. I don't have any Nurgle things to paint, but 1973 Washu commented in my previous 40 Facts video, and he says, "Could you do a tutorial on how to paint heads and faces?" Yes, I can, but first I need to find one. So the first step is to prime the model. It doesn't really matter if you use gray, tan, black, white, whatever primer you have laying around, but obviously I would suggest painting the head after you attach it to the model. It's just way easier. There are some models that have the rare instance where their face is kind of covered by either a hand or a weapon. Then in that case, what I would suggest you do is what I'm going to do here, and just stick it to the end of a paintbrush with like sticky tack, so that you could focus on the head and face only. Next, it's time to paint the face and the skin portions with a tan. It doesn't really matter. I use this one from GW. Now it's time to move on to the hair. This model is going to have brown hair color, but it's completely up to you if you want to go blonde, black, purple, whatever you decide. The important thing is to paint it a darker color in its spectrum, so like a dark brown. Next, I paint the black bits like the armor and the top knot, and now it's time to highlight the hair by using a lighter color of the spectrum. In this case, it's a light brown, and then this gets applied with a simple dry brush technique. Now it's time for the washes. For the skin, I like to use Rakelin Flesh Shade. It's the best wash for skin tones, in my opinion. Go pick this up at your GW store. It's crucial. And then the hair, it's good old-fashioned Nolan oil, but you could also just use some type of black wash. After those wash layers are done, I dry brush the face with a white to bring up some of the highlights, and once the white is slightly dry, I bring it back down with another application of the Flesh Shade wash. And there you have it, a quick and easy tabletop ready face. Now you could try to highlight the eyes. I don't ever find it necessary. It usually just ruins the face and it makes me upset. So it's completely up to you if you want to add like a small little white dot where the eyes are supposed to be. Completely up to you. But this was a lot of fun. If you guys want me to do any more of these quick little painting tutorials, just ask me what you guys want to see me paint in the comment section below. And I hope you guys enjoyed the lore on the Chaos Champion of Nurgle. It's always fun to read the lore on Nurgle, whether I'm sick or not, just because it's a constant reminder of how Nurgle is the kindest of the Chaos gods. And I would more than likely want to worship him because he gives you like immunity to death and pain, but at the same time, I don't want to turn into one of those creatures. It's just disgusting. But it's always fun to read his lore. So let's move on to the community portion of the video where I answer your guys' comments from the last 40 Facts video, which is 40 Facts and Lore on the ranks of the librarians. Gary Vaught says, can a chief librarian become a chapter master? Yes, he can. There's been situations both by necessity that it has to happen. So for example, the chapter might be on crusade, the chapter master dies, then the next highest rank would end up being the chief librarian for whatever reason, like the next in line wasn't there or they couldn't appoint a new chapter master. But there's also some chapters, successor chapters, that appoint a chief librarian, or their chief librarian position is the same as their chapter master position. I can't remember what chapter that is, but I know I created a 40 Facts video on them because I remember the lore. They even gave that title or that position a different title, a different name. Also, the most famous chief librarian, who's also a chapter master, is actually in the Dawn of War series. He was the chief librarian. I think he was like the bad guy of the first or second Dawn of War, and he was part of the Blood Ravens. So if you want to do that, go for it when you're creating your own homebrew lore. Next question comes from Enraged Sage. Does anyone in the 40K universe even refer to the galaxy as the Milky Way? Yeah, they do. Next question comes from Sapper12B. When you talk about reskinning a character, then getting the bus for playing from another chapter, the buff from getting from another chapter, what about if it's a successor chapter or you're using the one chapter tactic inherited of the Primarch or something like that, but it's the one where it says that they're so close to their father's chapter that they display the same characteristics in almost every way, blah, 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 blah. If you select this tactic, then use the chapter tactic of the chosen chapter. Would you still have an issue with someone reskinning a character then getting the chapter specific buffs then? Personally, I'll probably say no, that's fine, you could do it, but you do have to talk to the group that you're playing with. I don't think you can do that in a tournament, obviously, but it's really up to the group that you're playing with and how cool they are with you getting that buff, because I'm pretty sure you can break certain rules by doing that. As long as you're not a tryhard too, because like if they show up and they're like, oh, I have a chapter master, then I got like 3 Leviathan dreadnoughts, so they're all gonna get this type of buff, then it's like, okay, this guy's playing, this guy's a tryhard, and we have all played games against tryhards, and it's not fun to play with them. And then on top of that, they're basically breaking rules so that they can get it. So It depends on the list, it depends on the person, and it depends on the group that you're playing with. Personally, I would be like, yeah, that's fine, that's okay. And then if he beats me, I'll get mad. But yeah. Next question comes from Damned Legion. Can I please get some information on the Damocles Commando Rhino? Yeah, I could do that. The lore for the Damocles Commando Rhino is probably going to be really small, though. So I might do like 40 facts on the Rhino and then include that in there. I actually got a whiteboard right now, and I'm going to be writing all of the different suggestions that you guys give me, so that I have a list of all of the videos that I still need to do. Because my previous method of writing it on my phone doesn't really work. But if I have it on a clipboard or like a dry erase board in front of me, then it's like in my face every time I sit down in this spot. Next question comes from Fox the Beast. Why do you pull out those assless chaps? No, okay, yeah. Why do you pull out those assless chaps and start an OnlyFans anyways? So why don't you? I think you meant to say. Would be epic to finally see where the Sound Alchemist keeps his. Oh fuck, I can't remember. Claw, tentacles, whatever the flip it was. Yeah, the Sound Alchemist does have a tentacle, and that's actually from a blessing that he received from Grandfather Nurgle. It's tucked away in a spot where it's very convenient for him. So normally, like if people would have to scratch in a certain area, it would look bad if you just put your hand down there, but he has a tentacle that wiggles down past his clothes and it scratches it. I think that is the most functional blessing of Nurgle that you can have, and not have it be dangerous, not have it, take you to jail because you're using this gift. I would like to know, comment down below, what gift of Nurgle do you guys think would be the most functional, appropriate for our world, where it's not like a hand that turns into a cannon or some crazy stuff like that, like not turning you into a what are those things called, the demolishers, I think they're called, or destroyers or something. But yeah, comment down below, what gift would you like to have? And and as far as like the question of why don't I, I'm shy. Yeah, we'll go with that. This next comment comes from Patrick Forrest. Are you guys going to be affected by the anti-fan lawsuit stopping your content? We could be. So far, not so much. But like I've said in previous episodes, it's a bummer that GW is doing this. Being vocal about the frustration that you have with GW doing this to creators, when these creators are the people that like keep you within the hobby and keep you like buying their product, is good. So continue to do that, and hopefully GW realizes that, like, stop doing things like this. But yeah. Next comment comes from Jeremy Ortiz. Great video for new folks that joined the world of 40K in the last 15 years or so. They're still new. The different ranks were important in 3rd edition. Were they? I mean, they're still kind of important. So he's referring to the ranks of the librarians. They're still kind of important if you play Great Knights. I think you get different buffs if you play Great Knights, because they have like epistolaries and like the librarius and stuff like that within those ranks. But I'm not sure if that has changed for 9th edition. There's a lot of cool stuff from like older editions that I wish would still be a thing. Like the old create your own mutants. That was kind of cool. But that was like a long time ago. And then Jericho's End says, I'll sign up for your OnlyFans. Bet. I should create an OnlyFans, or at least like maybe just put my Venmo or my what is the other cool thing that people put up on TikTok? Whatever it is, my little like tag so you guys can Venmo me like, I don't know, enough money to buy us drinks on Saturdays, and we can showcase it on Instagram. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put our Venmo on our Instagram, and if you guys want to buy us a shot, go ahead. And then we'll film it and put it up in probably one of the greater walls. Would that be a cool thing? I think it would. We'll see. And those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. I'm signing out like it's a greater walk. It's not a greater walk. I will be talking to you guys tomorrow with more awesome lore. And thanks for listening. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, I used to put my